Hello everyone, it's your host, Andrew Carpenter, and welcome to another episode of Fintech What the Heck? The podcast for financial professionals, everything fintech, and the future of data. Today, I'll be interviewing the Chief Executive Officer of Capital Flow, Joey Taylor, along with Intrinio's Renewal and Expansion Customer Success Specialist, Nick Carroll, and I'm going to talk about the challenges caused when there are delays getting access to data.
My guest today is Joey Taylor. He goes by JT. He's the CEO of Capital Flow and Impact Investments. Welcome to the show, JT.
Hey, what's going on, Andrew? Really appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to learn all about it. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Capital Flow and Impact Investments, how they work together, and why you started the company?
Yes, so I created Impact Investments in November of 2019. At that time, I had been trading and investing in the stock market for a little over a year full time. And I was starting to share some of my wins on social media, Instagram, Twitter, right? And I was getting a lot of engagement. A lot of people really liked it. And, I was giving some tips and things that I had learned. And I was getting a lot of DMs and messages just from people asking if I had like a course or like a group or somewhere where they could really get some in-depth learning from myself. So what I did was I created Impact Investments as a group. And originally it was just supposed to be me, helping these few people that were my DMs, right? And, they got in the group and they started having so much success. And then they started telling their friends about it. And, their friends told their friends. And through word of mouth, it just grew into a large community. And so now Impact is at a point where we've been able to help thousands of people, earn an income in the stock market. They've been able to do things like pay off their debts and become debt free. They've been able to earn an income to where they can put a down payment on their first house or their first car. And, we've even been able in some cases to help some people leave their 9-to-5s completely and earn a full-time living just in the stock market. So that's the story behind Impact Investments. So now with Capital Flow, we're really trying to take what we already have been doing in Impact Investments, which is primarily, trading stocks and stock options. And we're trying to take that to the next level and provide now options order flow to our members in Impact Investments. So options order flow is going to give you real-time data about what the whales are buying. And the whales, those are what you would consider the institutional investors. These are the multi-millionaire billionaires that are making, $10 million, $20 million trades at a time. And so the idea with Capital Flow is that we're just going to be able to kind of even the playing field, right? The institutional investors, they kind of have an advantage over what you would consider, I guess, the common man, which is just, people who are at home on their phone, on their app, just trading like that, because they, a lot of times they have access to information that's not available to the general public. Mm-hmm. And, they have, so they just have what's the word I'm looking for?
They've got inside information that everybody else doesn't.
They just have inside information, and you have to have things like that in order to put millions of dollars into a trade, right?
Yep.
So they just have really high conviction trades. So we've been watching these institutional investors trade and just using that to see where they're putting their bets at, and we've been doing what's called following the smart money, right? So when you see a bunch of different orders, 250,000, $1 million, 5 million, all going into the same place. We take we take that information and we just follow the smart money. And just from doing that, just this month alone, I've been able to more than double my trading account, really exclusively from following the smart money. So we've been having a lot of success with that so far.
Maybe I shouldn't be a COO. Maybe I should be over there on your website, learn to trade. I love the story because it's so organic. It's not like you set out being like, I'm going to build a learning community and teach people. It was like it was happening on its own and you took it to the next level. It sounds like impact investments is just going to keep growing. You're going to spread into options and take it to the next level. Can you tell, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on a JT's shirt, but it's impactinvestments.online if you want to follow along. Can you talk a little bit about why your community is different, what you're teaching that's different than other places? Like, why are people being more successful learning from you? Like, what is the key to those people who are quitting their 9-to-5s and doubling their accounts? Like, what is it that you've got that other people don't have?
Yeah, so first off, as everyone kind of knows by now, the stock market has always been around, hundreds of years. But it wasn't until recently with COVID and, the pandemic crash where stocks kind of got mainstream or became popular, right? And that's when a lot of people really kind of jumped in the stock market. And, as the stock market they had that kind of mass adoption with COVID, then, a lot of new trading groups kind of sprouted up. So first, the thing that really kind of separates Impact from a lot of these groups is, we were around before COVID, before the crash. Like I mentioned, we have been doing this since 2019, and I had been doing it myself solo before that for a couple of years. So, we're not one of these groups that just kind of came out of nowhere once COVID hit and just decided to try and take advantage of everyone now wanting to participate in the stock market, right? And, I tell people all the time that one of the keys that makes a group good is consistency. And, you can't be a group that's been around for 2-3 months and, you might have had some wins within those couple of months. But, you haven't even been around for a full year. Like, you haven't even been through a full 4 seasons of trading. And, the stock market moves in cycles. So, just having that kind of history and having that consistency over 2 years. Because, anyone can get a few wins in a couple months. But, you got to be able to prove that you're able to win over the long term to be considered a good group. And another thing that I like to say separates us is, we don't promote, getting rich overnight. Trading is not a get rich quick scheme to us, right? We look at trading as a long-term form of income. So, we're not selling the dream of like, quit your job and you'll make $100,000 in a week or anything like that. Like I said, we have been able to have members who were able to leave their 9-to-5 and now trade full time. But that takes some time and it takes practice and it takes consistency. But what I really love about Impact Investments is that the group is designed to make sure members have success over the long term. Because when you're just hitting those big wins overnight, eventually you're going to end up losing that if you don't know how to maintain that success over the long term. So it's just structured, for people to really be able to have, and even, if you don't leave your 9-to-5, like we've had people that they still work their 9-to-5, but now instead of full time, they're part time. So, instead of working 5 days a week, they might just be working 3, and the other 2 days are in the stock market making their money. And so, even that is huge for a lot of people, right? And so it's just really amazing that we've been able to do that and to see these success stories happen in real time.
Right. It's not about beginner's luck with you. It's not like, hey, the market was up 30% last year. Nobody could pick a loser. Right. It's something that's got to sustain through now this downturn. And, you have to have more than like 1 or 2 ideas. You have to have a longer approach. And it reminds me, you're not talking about gambling, but it's the way like card counters talk about playing poker is that it's a job. You're going to go and you're going to work at it. And so you're not saying that you can retire. You can leave your 9-to-5 and you could be a professional trader. Maybe over time you could retire from it, but you're not saying that this is like a get rich quick scheme at all. This is about education and discipline and a long-term approach.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really sincere way to look at it. And I think the fact that you're already launching something new out of this community with the capital flow and the options tells me that you're seeing enough success in the community to say, all right, what's the next step? Can you talk a little bit more about like how you're launching the options flow smart money? Like what is it that you're going to be keeping an eye on there? How is that actually going to work?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been thinking about what the next step is, and I've always been wanting to provide more value for the community. Even after 2 years, I'm still looking for ways to improve it, and that's exactly what I'm doing with this new company, Capital Flow. Uh, so as of right now, at the time we're recording this, Capital Flow is available exclusively to Impact Investments members. Um, and that's going to be before we put it out to the public, and that's for a couple of reasons. For one, we're still kind of building out a lot of more features, right? We're adding about a feature or two every week, and we're taking the feedback from the community, from the Impact Investments members, and we're using that feedback to give them what they want with the features. So essentially, it's Capital Flow is created by Impact for Impact. So the users are helping us build this before we launch it and make it go public. Um, and something that I've kind of noticed with similar services that are similar to Capital Flow is it seems like those services are already kind of tailored towards people who have been in the market for a long time and
Mm,
kind of already know the ins and outs. So, if you're a beginner and you come into one of those services, it's just a bunch of information. And, it's valuable information, but if you don't know what to do with it, it's just worthless, right?
right.
So one of the things that we're doing with Capital Flow is in addition to, the options flow data, there's going to be a whole other side of it, and that's going to be an educational side, because we don't want this just to be something that's available to people who've already been in the market for a long time. We want beginners to be able to take advantage of this data. So right now we're still building out the new features to Capital Flow to get that where we want it to be, and then we're going to be building out the educational side so that beginners and novice traders can take advantage of it. And then after that is when we plan on having the public launch.
Yep, it makes sense to me. Like it's a natural outgrowth of the educational and community mindset that you're going to build something that gives you the data, but also makes it easier to understand it. Because if you're an experienced trader and you're a professional trader and you already work for a firm, you've got all this information and you already know how to process it. Like that's not your target market. It's the folks who've been left out of this opportunity, the ability to invest in the options market, and you're giving them not just the data but also the education to go along with it. Like, how long do you think it's going to be till you open it up? Do you think you're going to be in this beta for just a quarter, a few months? Like, what's your timeline?
Right now we're still just kind of building out features, getting feedback from the community, getting users signed up, because it's been less than a month since we launched the beta. So we're still running some tests, testing different strategies and things. But as of right now, we're planning to kind of stay in that and then just revisit at the end of the quarter and then see where we're at there and see if we're ready to launch.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about your community? Like, what kind of things are they discussing? What kind of things are they noticing? Are they picking up things that other people are missing?
Yes. So are you talking about in regards to Capital Flow specifically or just the community in general?
In both impact investments, capital flow. Like what insights are you getting from having this community that if I was just trading on my own that I might not have access to?
Okay, yeah, I see. So one of the main benefits of being in a community like this, where you have not only myself, but we have a lot of experienced traders, people who have been in the market for years now. And as a beginner, if you approach the market on your own, which is what I did at first, you're going to make beginner mistakes, like with anything in life.
Mm.
But in the stock market, making beginner mistakes means you're going to be losing money, right? And you don't want to be in that position where you're losing money. So one of the main benefits of being in a group like this is that you have access to experienced traders and you get to learn from their mistakes as opposed to learning from your own mistakes, which means losing money. So it's yeah, right. So it's you're able to expedite the learning process. And you don't have to spend years and years studying before you're able to become profitable, because you're able to access years of experience from all these members. In addition to that, we have resources, like we have a lot of ebooks, we have YouTube videos. We're on there multiple times a week with charting sessions. We do technical analysis sessions. We just had one a few days ago about how you can use Capital Flow specifically to find small account plays, So for that was for our members that are only working with, a few $100s, but, they still want to take advantage of the market. And so, we're teaching them how to find small account plays with this options flow information. We also have different trading bots. These bots are really powerful. They can do a lot of things for you. They can chart stocks for you if you don't know how to chart. They can give you different news. They can give you real live data on certain tickers that you like, all types of things.
Yeah, I wish I would have had this when I started trading. Probably 10 years ago, I started investing myself, and I learned the hard way on a bunch of investments. And then another word for it is I learned the expensive way. Because I was 10 years ago, you invested by yourself. That's what it was. There were brokerages where you could buy and trade. Maybe 30, 40 years ago, you couldn't even do that. But I really like the idea of, especially if you're getting started, you having a community around you of people that you can run your ideas past, or who might have ideas that you didn't think of. I think it's a way to reduce the cost of becoming experienced. Like it's an expensive game to learn the hard way, I think.
Right. And the stock market is a space that's so vast, so massive. You can't see everything. As one person, it's impossible to see everything, see all the opportunities, right? And so, being in a group like this, you have different people that are looking in different areas of the market. So, like you said, they'll see things that you might not see. And then, y'all are able to bounce those ideas off of each other. So, there's just so many advantages to being able to kind of connect and get in a group with people that are all on the same path as you and all have the same goal as you.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds fun and faster way to learn. Talk a little bit more, if you would, about capital flow. Like, if the idea behind impact investment is you get ideas, you can bounce things off people who know. It sounds like capital flow, that's the same thought process, is that if you're following the smart money, you're just expanding the number of people who have ideas to this group of professional traders who are putting hundreds of millions of dollars behind a play. Is the idea just to expand your community's ability to go with smart money, to follow other ideas that most people don't have access to?
Yeah, so we want to give people another opportunity to make money, and not just give them another opportunity, but to make it as simple as possible, right? Because with following the smart money or following the flow, that allows you to kind of, in a certain way, you don't have to look for your own ideas, right? Because you can see what other people's ideas are and that they've executed on these. And not only have they executed on them, but, they feel so confident that they're putting hundreds and thousands or millions, tens of millions of dollars behind it. And so, what I've been able to do is significantly decrease the amount of research that I do. I used to be outside of market hours, during market hours, just spending a lot of time looking at charts, trying to find setups, trying to find, something that I feel like move in the desired direction, right? And now I've just significantly decreased that amount of research, and I'm just looking at capital flow and just able to follow the smart money there. So not only have I decreased the amount of research with capital flow, but I've also increased the amount of profits. I'm making more money just following that options flow. So yeah, the real idea there is to just keep things simple. And for me, I've been in the market for a few years, and in the beginning, it was like real exciting for me because there's so many different ways to make money in the stock market. There's different strategies, and the stock market is really one of those things that you can never fully master. Like, there's always something new to learn, right? But after you've been in there for a few years, like I said, I'm no longer at a point where I want to spend 4 or 5 hours cycling through charts trying to find trades when I can keep that as simple as pulling up capital flow, looking at where the money is going, and just following that and making more profits. So it's able to, we're able to give members the opportunity to make more profits and do less research and just kind of keep things simple.
Yeah, it's more efficient, especially if you've got another job, or you're a part-time trader, or even if you're a full-time trader, you don't have infinite time to look into everything. And if there is smart money out there that you can learn from quickly and efficiently, I think you're gonna make more money because nobody has limitless time. It makes a lot of sense. If people want to learn more about or join your community, where can they find you? I know they can find you at impactinvestments.online. Where else should they check you out?
Yeah, so I'm on my personal social medias, and this is my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's at the Almighty JT. We also have a business page for Impact Investments on Instagram and Twitter. That's going to be at Impact Invest _. We just got the Capital Flow Instagram account created. So that's capitalflow.app _. And like you already mentioned, the link to sign up to Impact Investments is impactinvestments.online.
And the only way to get into Capital Flow right now is through impactinvestments.online. That's for that community, but you do have a broader release coming up.
Yeah, right now it's only available to Impact Investments members, and it's actually free for anyone that's in Impact Investments. There's no additional fee for them. But once we do have that broader release and we make it available to the public, there is going to be a monthly fee there. But as of right now, if you join Impact Investments, you'll have free access to Capital Flow, and that'll be free for life. It's not going to change for you if you get in through the group right now.
Yeah. Well, I love the mission. I love the education, helping and building a community. It sounds like you're having success, but also sharing the success with other people, which I think is really, really cool. And I like that you're continuing to grow the community from, just education into this really smart direction of smart money on following options with Capital Flow. So thanks for being on the show and telling us about it. And I'm excited to check out your community. It was great having you, JT.
Yeah, I really appreciate you for having me on. Thanks for the opportunity, Andrew.
You bet. Okay, we've got Nick. He's our renewal specialist here at Intrinio. That's Nick Carroll. We were talking about his title. Not really sure if renewal specialist is the best title or not. Thanks for being on the show, Nick.
How's it going, guys? Yeah, the title thing is always a fun one. I think anytime you're in the startup world, right, you're all jacks of all trades, masters of none.
Yeah, and it's like does the title even matter? It's like, whose line is it anyway? The points don't matter. I don't know.
I feel like generally speaking, it's more just like communications, right? I just handle talking to people about things, and as the rest of our customer success team would say, trying my best to shine up some turds anytime there's a deliver maybe less than fortunate news, or just make sure we can respond to folks who may be unhappy, handling those delicate conversations that always stem around when you're talking about finances, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you're a renewal specialist. I mean, we'll just go with that for now, but can you just remind everybody, you've been on the show, so you've talked about this, but what's your job exactly?
Well, once our customers have come into the funnel, right, where they're here, they're getting the Intrinio data, we wanted to have somebody who would be monitoring their process for them and making sure that we could take care of any additional needs they had. So it's if we all put on our evil businessman hats and say we want to generate the most revenue possible. Yeah, there's a point of trying to find upsell opportunities and stuff like that. But I think more dynamically, what it's been is handling the renewal aspect, checking in on people. We're handling startups. So how is the project going? What other needs do you guys have? Finding ways that we can just, increase both our influence and then assistance with them, but also, help folks get to the end line of their projects.
Right. Okay. So I was just in New York talking with some companies that maybe don't think about a funnel for their clients or a process. How you're dealing with hundreds of clients, right? Not just one or two, right? So
it's an ongoing conversation. It sort of rotates.
Yeah.
This month we're talking to these.
In a cycle with clients where they come in and it's I'll talk to this one again in 6 months. Is that how you think about it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. I think we take sort of we're playing zone as opposed to man here at Intrinio.
Right.
So we got a team on here at customer service or customer success, where we're going to be talking to folks. I have my specialty. We have a couple other members of the team that have their specialties, be it support, be it just general day-to-day engagement. And so we're less thinking of it more of like, all right, Nick Carroll needs to talk to this person once every 3 months, as much as it's making sure that we're touching base with these guys every couple months. Be that me, be that Aurora, be that Lauren, who I know works on our team as well. We're just trying to do our best to keep engaged, keep the process going, make sure that there's no surprises on either end. If there's any pain points, we want to make sure that we have a connection, a one-to-one like personal experience, so that they can bring it up. And then I think the more we sort of create that engagement, the more you get those, like, from a business perspective, the old like doctor doorknob questions. Right when someone's getting ready to walk out the door, all of a sudden, hey, actually, we've been thinking about expanding our operation into including options in our pro. Do you guys handle that? As a matter of fact, we do. Let's talk about it.
Yep, you like spend the first 20 minutes hobnobbing, and then you get to the point of the doorknob. Yep. I love that analogy of zone versus man-to-man, because I think bigger traditional companies, they think about, okay, we have a client, they're paying us $1 million a year. I can afford to put one person whose job is just to take that client out to lunch and play golf with them. But you're thinking about covering like a whole swath. It's got to scale more. It's more like a scalable business model rather than like every client we bring in a new account manager. We're like bringing in 10 a month or more to 100, and your small team's handling like 400 clients. So like, what works there? Like how do you make that work? Like, what are the tools? Are you using like a CRM to track all these relationships?
Yeah, so we use, I don't know, it's too much of a secret. We use HubSpot, all right, here at our company when we're using a sales CRM. We tend to play off of that information on the customer success side as well, where we're going to be looking through, finding those, tracking things, creating tasks for ourselves, making regular checkups. I think what you can tend to find is when clients are coming in and you're building that relationship, you start to categorize them, and you find that there are, as unique and separate as each company is going to be, there are going to be similarities more in how they interact with your product. So you got guys that are in that startup phase and you want to check in a little bit more regularly because their business plan is changing every month like ours did when we were starting up. You got those guys that are sort of a set it and forget it client. They're a guy that I know exactly what I need. I'm not going to need anything else from you guys. I enjoy your service. I want to make sure that it's there. And those guys you can afford to check in a little less regularly, more because you're just making sure that you have that connection. If they need anything, you're available. But provided the lights are on, these guys are having a good time. And you just sort of go through and put those clients into those very separate buckets, and then you have those check-ins. I think because we separate rather than doing a man-to-man on like a client, we do sort of a man-to-man on a function within our team. We have the benefit of knowing that multiple eyes will be on a client. You'll get that benefit of having a team of 3 people servicing one client without the negatives of only having one guy, who knows anything about it. You're de-siloing the information, which is a benefit for us, while also having, okay, well, I know at the beginning of this process or when there are support questions, this person is going to be involved. I know that when we're, dealing with a month-to-month daily, questions or just any regular check-ins, marketing efforts on our part, this person will be involved. Every contract inherently has a point when it's going to renew. Great, that's when this person is going to be involved. And because all those people are cycling through, you find that it's a lot harder to miss things, which I think is a benefit. As counterintuitive as that may seem with a small team.
I'm supposed to know this stuff, but I don't. So I'm learning. I'm like, oh, those silly companies, they don't know what they're doing. But I didn't even think about it. It's like you're playing zone, but that means that like that client can move through your zones, and so you're all able to cover that client at different parts of their life cycle. All right, let's get in.
It can occasionally cause some confusion on a comm standpoint. I think the number one point of that we tend to run into when we're on phone calls, because you'll hop on a phone call with the Intrinio team. There's like 4 of us on there because we all want to make sure we know what's going on with you. But at the end of the phone call, it's like, all right, so if I have a question, I reach out to, and that's usually the most complicated one we're going to get, because it's just, honestly, just send us an email. Pick one of us, send an email. It's going to get where it needs to go.
Right.
Pick it at Intrinio. I guarantee you it's getting taken care of.
Yeah, well, you're all pretty talented and you have good inter-team communication. Let's say that's an advantage, right? if I wanted to build this function out from scratch, it would really help to have a team like Intrinio has, where you all kind of communicate naturally.
Yeah, I mean, our team historically, I mean, outside of our head Flavia, we had worked with each other at another organization. We all just happened to work at the same place how we met each other, and also how the word of mouth spread about this great place called Intrinio that was, had some openings and some needs available, which is always a good thing, right? But I think that that shorthand is something you could definitely have. But I think the core principles there of having that like zone coverage, having multiple people looking at it, and I think what we recently experienced when we expanded the team a little bit is I saw sort of the benefit to it, because I saw questions that I had been asking when I first started up of like, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm noticing this thing, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing or how we're going. All of a sudden those same questions get asked the second time, because we have new eyes looking at it, new things. Sometimes they're going to find different things, and I think having that root cause, it sounds more intimidating than it is. You think like you need these people who've been doing this thing for a long time, but I do think it works a little bit. Also allows a person to be a little less spread too thin than you are when you have that sort of man-to-man company thing, because now I need to be the expert in everything this company could ever possibly have. I've been that guy. I've worked in a role similar to that in the past.
Yeah.
And inevitably that guy's going to come to you with the one question where you're like, that is a amazing question and I don't know. Which I also think can generate a little bit of burnout on a personnel standpoint, because all of a sudden you view one small lapse in your knowledge as being like a complete failure, when the truth is it's like, you were doing 6 guys' jobs, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I love it. It sounds so stressful. I'm like, I used to do support when I had to know the API syntax. I had to know the coverage. Yep. I had to know everything. I had to know your contract, on and on and on. Ugh. It's like, how did we used to do that?
It's doable, but I don't think anybody's going home at the end of the day being like, I don't think anybody's waking up in the morning being like, awesome, I can't wait to go in and see what I'm doing. It's more like, what fire is it going to be today?
Yeah, that's so stressful. Oh my gosh. All right. Tell me about like how this whole system of account management where you're playing zone, that I don't think it could work if our products, like our data products, weren't the bottleneck. I think a lot of companies that try to support clients that are buying data are like, the idea of adding a new feed for a client is like scary or stressful for them. And so it's like, okay, we got to do delivery. We have to set up this custom FTP. Like, do you feel that because delivery of financial data, we have this analogous team on the back end at Intrinio that has figured out how to deliver and clean and standardize and normalize APIs of data simply?
Yes, it's a group of wizards, I'm assuming, lives in a cave somewhere just solving magical problems. Go ahead.
Right, but like when that client, you're about to walk out the door of your meeting with that client and they're like, oh, by the way, do you do options? The answer is not only yes, we can add that for you, but we can do it quickly and efficiently so that like your team can actually manage hundreds of relationships, because the system enables you to actually support them, to give them what they need, the data and the tools, without like being bogged down in, okay, that client wanted one new data feed, we'll see you in a few months.
Like I think that's something that I've seen just in the time I've been here, where we have sort of tried to do our best to scale to what we do great. And I think that does create that comfort that you're talking about of like, okay, I know that if a client's saying, hey, do you have insert any name of any data point here, if it's something that I know we have in-house available right now, I know we do it well, I know we do it excellent, I know we're going to be able to have it integrated with you like very quickly. When they're asking for things outside of our normal scope, that's when, as a data provider, I think as like a problem solver, I know I have the problem of being just like a fixer, right? I always want to solve the problem and go for it. We will still make a great effort. We can still go through that process to try to match someone up with someone else who we know does this thing amazing, and this is their bread and butter. They're going to have an excellent experience there as well. But it's just isolating, what do we do well, what do we not do well, what are the things that we can improve on in the future, maybe pursue later, versus the stuff that we know we're going to knock out of the park right now. And I do think that having that curated list of stuff that's like ours, we own, we kill it, we can be smug in the meeting. You're not the person who's walking in and you're just hoping, like you're the waiter at the restaurant that knows the dish is terrible and you're like, please don't order this dish. Please don't. we know, like, you know what, if it's on the menu, it's gonna be awesome. So yes, on the we can have that confidence and have that. And I think that carries through to all aspects, from the sales process to the support to even the development on the back end, where our team knows that they're doing it really well. I think that's where we do have it. That does allow us all to sort of like streamline our process, because you're not going to have that like one-off guy on the back end getting a thing that nobody else gets, and each client is their own custom puzzle. Support becomes you're divvying up development hours to be like, okay, so this file might work every day. We need to know who's the guy who's going to dedicate 15 minutes every single day just to check to make sure it worked. Who's this guy over here? You're splitting up development hours down to the minute, as opposed to what we can do, which I think is focus more on projects, issues, things to that effect.
Yes. Okay. You're speaking my language, but like, yeah, I can see. I can see it.
It's almost like we work together. It's crazy.
I know, right? It's almost like we're on the same page. That's wonderful. All right. Anything? What isn't working? I mean, are you just bogged down in like Slack messages and email that's just got you buried? Like, where are your challenges?
I think the challenges right now is because we're in that like fun middle ground of we're growing, but we're not huge. We're big, but we're not Titanic. And there are all of these like products and processes that would exist at a massive company to handle some like a standardization process, right? Templates, project guides, things to that effect, that aren't going to exist at our level, because we could make it for how we do it right now, but we know for a fact it's not how we're going to do it in 6 months, and we know that's not really necessarily going to be there. And it's finding like, what are the processes that are going to stick, what are the ones that we want to modify in the future, what are the ones that we think might have a chance at it, what do we want to like commit pen to paper on. I think that's where some of the difficulty lies. I think the other side of it from an account management standpoint is just being that we inherently, because we know we're big, we're not Titanic, there comes a point where there are some limitations in hours in a day and solutions. So we are going to have clients that will request something from us that we're like, man, I really wish I could say yes to this one. Really wish I could give you this. Really wish we had the time to build this thing, because we think this is awesome too. But there's just a fixed number of hours in a given day, and our team is just not quite ready to take on this Titanic project. So I think that's where there can be a little bit of a friction point as well, because you find those guys that are like, I love the Intrinio product, I love the Intrinio support, I like what I'm able to get, and man, if you guys were able to do that whole thing for this product, I'll be able to back the Brinks truck up and give you all the money in the world. And we're like, we like Brinks trucks. That's our favorite delivery. If I have an option, I'll take that one over all the other deliveries. But we know there's like, all right, I could lie to you and say like, yeah, it'll get done tomorrow, but we just know inherently it's not what we're quite ready for at the moment.
Yes. Okay. Discipline to focus on what you're good at and not try to be everything for everyone all the time. So you can be something to someone some of the time. All right. For our audience that's here to hear about financial data and all that, you can leave now. We're going to talk about cinematic universes. So
now
this
it's time for our ad campaign. We're sponsored today by Disney. No,
right. All right. Okay. So I've been thinking about. I just saw Batman. It was awesome. I have a lot to say about it.
Great movie.
Yeah, super good. I thought it was incredible. But like got me thinking, okay, you got like DC universe, you got Marvel universe, like Amazon's building out the Token universe. They're launching like new Lord of the Rings stuff. Like, okay, how much money is there if you can get your own universe? Because it seems to me that like once you've got a universe, you just print stuff in that universe until you've got all of these Brinks trucks backed up. Like, is everybody else like going to get on this bandwagon of having a universe?
I think we're running out of it. I think you're seeing people try to do that and fail at it because they're like sort of taking the wrong lesson from everything that's done. The one that comes to mind is like the Universal Shared Monster Universe, which had a few movies that came out where you had Dracula Untold, available now on most streaming platforms. Great flick, right? Sets up Dracula, was a cool thing. Then they come out with The Mummy, and they were like, we're going to invest a ton of money in this thing. We think this thing's going to be great, but it just wasn't there. The IP just kind of didn't work the way they wanted it to. The shared universe, they're bringing in a Jekyll and Hyde when like, as we've learned from The Incredible Hulk, the twist isn't there because we all know how Jekyll and Hyde works these days. And there's just an element that doesn't quite work. I think as joking as I say about us being sponsored by Disney, I think, man, they own my childhood. They're a company that has just taken that time to just sit there and be like, what do we want to sit back and then just show up and buy? How about everyone's childhood? Like, I was a Marvel comic kid. I was a Star Wars kid. I was watching like Fox and the Hound and just bawling my eyes out when the fox betrayed and the hound can't be friends for a portion of the movie. Who's not doing that as a child? It's just like, yeah, man, I think they've been able to sort of master that process. I think the other error you see is when you don't have one cohesive vision, because at the end of the day, the Marvel universe is good, but if it didn't have like a guy running it like they do, I think what you would get is sort of the wishy-washy feelings that a lot of people have toward the DC cinematic universe.
Yeah. Okay. You're giving me some insight. I want my own universe, and I want to sell it for Brink's worth of money. But like,
interesting. Yes.
Well, I'm just thinking. I'm looking at like, okay, there's all these streaming wars happening, right? And so, any streaming service, there's like dozens of them that I have to subscribe to. They're going to want their own universe because it's such a moneymaker, but they're all going to fail at it. Is that kind of your argument? Is that like, unless they
kind of, I think it's just one where you need to go into it knowing that you have the fundamentals to accommodate it and that you have the drive to pursue it. Because if we look at like the difference that you can see in this universe conversation that we're talking about, right? You have HBO has Game of Thrones, the great big swathing thing. They're going to come out with another television show on the same plane, but it's not like they're going all hands in and being like, what we need? 6 shows. All of them are going to be this crazy. And that's kind of what you have to do when you want to do the movie route, because all these things got to be in production at the same time. You have to have a guy that sits down, puts has that insane moment, the It's Always Sunny Pepe Sylvia, the string on a board, just trying to figure out people that exist to get that going, because you're going to have 6 movies running at any given time, and it's just never going to, it is a recipe for failure. I am hopeful for the Amazon Lord of the Rings thing, because obviously that's already worked a couple times. I'm hopeful for all these other like nerdy things that are now in public consumption, so I can just look back at those people who made fun of me in high school and laugh at them with the One Ring like phone cases and be like, I was mocked. It was first period PE.
Yeah.
You laughed at me.
Yeah. You'll see. You'll all see.
We're finally getting our comeuppance.
Yeah, that's right. They're all sitting at home on their couches watching the different universes that we have known to inhabit.
There we were watching that 90s X-Men cartoon, and now it's coming back, and we're just like, I knew it. Yeah, he's going to win Emmys. Exactly. We were all true.
Yeah. I feel like I wonder if there's like some untapped gold that can be mined out there from history of like the last 100 years. Like, I feel like that's how DC and Marvel got it done, and Disney too. I mean, they've been in business long enough that they're like, well, we can look back at brands that will appeal to people who are older because they remember it from their childhood, like, Batman 100 years ago or 50, 60 years ago, whatever. But like, are there untapped characters and universes that could coalesce into some other vision, or has it all been like sucked dry? Are they just like, we've got all the goods?
I think not only has it mostly been sucked dry, I'm looking at properties like, I'm not sure if you saw the most recent, like the Kingsman movie or the Kingsman movie series. I feel like a lot of these things are getting sucked dry to the point that folks are like going back to that like spring of information, and as like Mark Miller is writing this comic book, he's optioning the movie rights. Like, it's kind of like, I have these 6 issues, the third one isn't even out yet, and we're already optioning movie rights. There's a sequel in the works that doesn't even have a comic series associated with it, and I think that's how like tapped that process is getting. I think that's why, for someone such as yourself who writes fiction or has that opportunity out there, there's an endless stream of people who need new IP.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, that's validating. Maybe I won't create the next universe, but at least they need my universe, my characters in some.
So everybody get out there, start running your Dungeons & Dragons game, taking notes, and then you never know, you might stumble onto something.
Yeah, just like you put up some stands in the audience for your D&D game so that the writers can just sit up there and be like, guys, can we make some more? I got to reserve this first row of seats at my friend's basement for the HBO execs. They might want to option this. It's a big deal. The animated series comes out in June. I'll be honest, I haven't even come up with what we're doing next week, but I'm told the animated series is starting in June. Right. Okay. Now your D&D game's getting optioned for
Perfect.
a second season. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have got what I needed here. Thanks, Nick. It's been really fun. Um, uh, you injected some life into the show, and I appreciate it. I'm probably okay. Take us out, Megan.
Okay, I'm going to rant for just a few minutes about the challenges that can occur when getting access to data and specifically financial data. And I don't know if this is for the audience's benefit or my benefit because in addition to selling data um, at Intrinio, we buy a lot of data. We use data to internally to derive new data sets or to support data sets that we create from open sources or data that we can resell. And those are all cases where, in my role as chief operating officer, I go out and buy data from other vendors. And so I always try never to treat our customers the way the vendors always seem to treat me, which is a lesson that can be applied in many areas of your life. But particularly with buying data, my experience has been that when you go to buy a data set, it takes an incredibly long time. So you'll say, okay, I want this data set. You begin your search. First of all, you have to find who are the providers of that data. So you're Googling, you're out there looking around, it takes forever. And then when you finally do find a provider that, yes, they can provide what you need, that's where the headaches really, really start. So when I am talking to these providers, the first thing I say is, how much does this data cost, and when can I test it? Those are my first two questions. If it's too expensive, I can't afford to buy it. Same as every company and business on the planet. And always with data, you want to test it because the fields might not be what you need. There might not be enough history. Maybe the data quality is bad. Maybe the access method matters. We do a lot of real-time data integrations for streaming market data options at Intrinio, and latency matters, conflation matters, things like that. So you have to test the data. And immediately when I ask those two questions, how much does it cost and can I test it? The answers are maybe to the first question, how much does the data cost? Well, the answer is maybe, or we can't tell you, or who knows, or why don't we go play around at golf and at halfway through on the eighth hole, I'll tell you how much data costs. So I can't get a straight answer on the data's cost right out of the gate is the problem. And then the answer about the trial is, of course, you can test it, and that begins a 6 week or 8 week rabbit hole of trying to get access. I've got two tests going on right now with two different providers. One of them is entering month 6, just trying to get connected, just trying to see what the data schema is, what data is involved. In 6 months of data testing, that's crazy. You're paying development time for that testing period. It's an absolute nightmare. The other one has been delayed 6 weeks. So that is still frustrating, bordering on maddening. But I think that's pretty much par for the course, is that most data vendors, they don't think the way their customers think. And so they don't seem to see the problem with 2 to 6 week delays and just getting access and testing. But it's when you work with financial data, and I'm sure every kind of data, there's oftentimes a business use case that is time bound. So if you're buying data for alpha, maybe in like a predictive model, the alpha is not going to be there in maybe a week, maybe a year. At some point, the alpha diminishes in data sets. There's usually only alpha in a data set until others figure out that there's alpha there, or maybe the market changes or something like that. So a 6 weeks delay might diminish the value of that data set by 50% or 100% or even more. The other thing that can change is regulations can change. So this is something that I'm dealing with in the market data space right now, is that exchanges change their rules all the time. And so if I have a 6 week, 12 week, 6 month delay in getting access to data, By the time I go to integrate that data, the licensing and regulations surrounding that data might have shifted, and now I have to start over. Or all the work that I put into designing that data product might go out the window. So I'm sure if you work with data, and if you have a policy due, you've experienced some of these problems. Is that like you're trying to make business decisions, or you have operational constraints around needing data in a fast manner, and so when you go out to buy it, even a few weeks delay might mean whatever you were trying to achieve isn't going to be achieved. The data is worthless, or you're just going to be pulling your hair out and frustrated, which isn't a situation anybody wants. So my approach to this is to at Intrinio, we try to infuse everything we do with speed, and it is the thing that the customer wants. Obviously, I know that because I'm a data customer, and they have business needs, and everything's an emergency when you're the customer. You know, you're trying to service your own customers, build your own platform. You're in a hurry. So, from the customer standpoint, getting data as quickly as possible is really important. But from the vendor's standpoint, that's me, in some cases, getting answers to those questions. How much does it cost? Can I take a trial? To my prospects, people who want to buy data from me instantly, or even just publicly on my website, or at least allowing my sales team to give those answers and start those trials within a few hours at most. It poses a huge advantage to me as the vendor, because what is happening on the sales side when a data trial and the process of buying data is taking 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, you're wasting all of your sales time, your salespeople's time, your sales engineers' times. So not only is the client's time being wasted by those delays, but your team is just being super inefficient. You're not going to win new business. You're not going to be able to improve your product and keep your focus where it needs to be, on winning new business and making your data products better. You're going to be focused on clients who 6 weeks down the line, when they finally find out the price, say, "Oh, that's too much," or not enough. Maybe it could be. It doesn't seem to happen very often, but 6 weeks down the line, they might say, "Oh, this isn't going to work for me." Well, all that work just went out the window. So our approach at Intrinio is we give you pricing the same day. I don't mind if our pricing happened to be too low and we gave it too fast. That's not a big deal. We get more clients by telling them the price up front, or we save that, we make up for, maybe a slightly lower contract value, through more volume, but also reduce staff costs. So we're not wasting time hemming and hawing, going back and forth, or, "Oh, hey, I'll tell you at the end of your trial how much it costs," after you've already committed to it. I don't like being treated that way, so we don't treat people that way. I think it's rude. It's like a bait and switch sometimes too, is that if you can get someone to commit a lot of dev resources to testing a data set, and without knowing how much it's going to cost at the end of the day, oh, they already put 5-10 grand of dev time into it. It's a sunk cost. So if the prices actually ends up being higher, well, as long as it's not 5 or 10 grand higher, it's cheaper just to go with it, even though that vendor kind of railroaded you. So we don't like to treat our prospects, clients, humans that way, because we don't like to be treated that way. So we give pricing right up front. You can see pricing on our website, or for some cases we can't give pricing right away for certain data sets for a couple of reasons, but we're going to get you pricing on it within a business day or less, because we don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste our time. But the thing that is so special about Intrinio, and you would think, if you're a consumer of cars, you go take a test drive and they say, "Oh yeah, we'll give you a test drive in 6 months." Well, maybe with the chip shortage, that is actually what's happening. But in general, you expect to be able to drive a car that's on the lot at the same day. Intrinio does that for data, but almost all vendors out there seem to have these incredible inability to vend data, even though that's what their business is, because they haven't broken off a sandbox or a trial product or something that they're comfortable giving a client access to immediately so they can test. And if you test a lot of data, you know that it's okay if it's delayed or limited history, or all the coverage isn't there, because they don't want to let you eat the whole steak before, as your taste test before you buy it. That's okay. As long as the schema is the same, the fields are the same, the update's the same, the authentication, the API, FTP, whatever you're doing is the same. Having some sort of test that you can get in and look at the data immediately is so valuable that you can disqualify that data set, or as the vendor, you could disqualify that prospect if they're going to say, oh, this data isn't going to work in this format for me. It doesn't have what I need. Great. We can part as friends, and you'll come back to me later on when you actually do need something I have to offer, or you'll refer another prospect to me because you had a good experience buying that data from me. So I guess this isn't as much for the audience as it is for me to vent a little bit about the challenges in the industry. But if you at all have any control or capacity over your sales process and how customers interact with your business, give them upfront pricing and give them trial access immediately. If your sales process has more than a day of latency in it because of getting access to those prospective clients is taking more than a few hours on your team, you're doing something wrong. You're doing it horribly wrong. And you're missing a big opportunity to create an efficient sales process, both for your organization and for your clients. The end.